It's 7 o'clock. It's time to talk some Lorcana for the week. Excited everyone could join us this week. We have a great show, some wonderful guests, some wonderful topics to talk about. Um, one of these days we're gonna get like that really cool lead-in animation that some other shows do, a lot more professional shows than we are, but you all don't see it behind the scenes before the show. Always the guests, we're all hanging out, having a good time chatting, and then we look up and it's 7 o'clock, and I was like, all right, we got to go live like now. So we jump right in. Yeah, so may notice this week I am centered and not off center as I usually am, hoping that Aaron can jump in. This is because Aaron is working furiously. For those who don't know, we both have day jobs, Aaron and I. And Aaron works for a nonprofit in town, Court-Appointed Special Advocates of Travis County, and their biggest fundraising event is this Saturday. It's huge. It's a massive event, and so she is frantically getting ready for that, and so is not able to join us this evening, although she would much rather be here than working on her stuff. So I'm sporting the Casa shirt today, Casa's logo, and I hope that event goes really well for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, so let's get into it. We have some wonderful guests this week. Everybody's really excited and passionate about the topic we have to talk about, which is casual versus competitive play. And I guess I'll start right out by bringing everybody in, and then we'll start diving in. As always, if you're here watching live, welcome. And if you have any questions throughout the show for our guests or comments, throw them in the chat. We'll highlight them. We'll try to address them. We have questions that a lot of you sent in on Twitter or Discord or other places. We'll try to talk about some of those, and yeah, it's going to be a great hour. So thanks everybody for joining us, and thanks to everybody I already see in the chat. But to start, I want to start by bringing in first Dan from Hobbies and Happiness. Sometimes I like to surprise people by not telling them they're coming right in. Dan from Hobbies and Happiness. Hobbies and Happiness is a fantastic show focusing primarily on Lorcana now, but with a history of looking at all sorts of games. So Dan, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I was telling you beforehand, it's weird being on this side of Restream. I'm used to seeing a completely different side. So it's always fun when I get to join shows from a completely different perspective.
That is true. I have to give Dan a shout out. The genesis of this show, we were inspired by Dan and your show, because way back in the day when Lorcana was brand new, way back in the day, a year ago, Dan would host weekly streams where all like 10 Lorcana content creators in existence would get together and all talk to ourselves for like 3 hours sometimes. But it was a wonderful time, though.
Those are the days, man. Those were the days. Oh, and you know what? We know how to play the game now. We didn't know how to play the game back then.
We also didn't know how to say Ravensburger properly.
Yes.
The reason I brought you in first, by the way, don't worry, I have a shirt on here, but I am sporting.
Oh, my man, love to see it.
Merch. They have a fantastic merch store, so you should check it out. I love this T-shirt. I wear it all the time. So thank you for this.
100%.
Yeah, delightful. Next, I'm going to bring in Rebecca. See, all the guests in the green room have to be prepared. Like,
who's next?
Right? Rebecca, who runs the Lorcana Luminary Instagram feed, Twitter, all the things. Rebecca, thanks for joining us.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here, and thanks for hosting. I know there's a lot. We're going to get into it. There's a lot going on online, and so it's good to have some in-person conversations about this topic. So it's going to be a good night.
For sure. A lot of us learn at one point or another, and then relearn sometimes, that having these nuanced discussions in 140 characters or less.
Never good.
Yeah. So I'm glad we can have a productive conversation here. And
my background.
Your background. It looks so good.
Thank you.
And again, hi to everybody in the chat.
Floating through the Lorcana sphere.
Yeah, it's perfect. And to round out our square here, so we're nice and even, and not a pyramid. We have Scott Goodrich, the former host of the Blogadon podcast, like lifelong gamer, and your perspective on games and particular Lorcana is always really appreciated. So thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely thrilled to be here. Rebecca, for what it's worth, loved your little Dragonfire video. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
If y'all haven't seen it, go check it out on Twitter. It's amazing.
I tried to get my son involved in that one, and he was like, "No, mom, no."
Fair.
Next
Fair.
one.
I was like, "All right, yeah."
Next one. But this is we're gonna give you the positive like reinforcement that that video is so good. Like next time, he's got to jump on because yeah. Also, before I jump into it, I do have to give a quick public thank you to Scott.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you said this is to highlight Scott's lifelong love of card games. We were talking a while ago about the old Star Wars Decipher card
The
game.
Decipher, yeah.
Yeah, and I knew that when Decipher lost the license, they tried to take the mechanics and create a brand new game out of it, and the game didn't last. And so we were talking about this, and Scott had played Wars, and I hadn't. And Scott found me a bunch of cards and sent them to me, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Nice. Now the question is, are you going to open it and when?
I don't know. Like, I think the intent was for me to like open it and actually play the game. But now that I have a sealed box from like,
yeah, like I don't know how to do that.
I've got the player is like standing like whispering this, and the collector is whispering in this ear.
Yes.
I'm so conflicted.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
If I do open it, I'll probably do it on stream so people can enjoy it because there probably aren't terribly many of these left. I don't know.
No,
Yeah,
there's not. There's not. That's true.
Yeah.
See, now I can't open it.
I just don't open. Just hold on to it.
I'm like, rip it open.
So, anyway, it is like sealed boxes of Lorcana. That is true. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us. I thought we'd start out before wading into the minefield and starting to discuss this. I did thought we'd start out with some fun. And I teed up 3 cards from last week. We can all give rapid impressions of these Lorcana cards. I won't do all of them. That's what This Week in Ink is for in an hour. So we'll just do 3. The first one, this one.
Okay.
It's vanilla. It's boring. No, I'm kidding.
It is a little boring from a gameplay perspective.
Yeah. My favorite thing is the Atlantean.
The Atlantean. I was gonna say it's not vanilla because you have that Atlantean there, which is just
gameplay
perfect.
perspective wise. Yes, it's vanilla.
Yeah,
but
it is.
So much more than that.
Yes.
I love the artwork, and I do love that little Atlantean at the bottom.
It's like French vanilla.
Yeah, my first thought was they're just giving us different flavors of goons, and we already have one in Amber, but this is maybe you prefer Atlantis, and Atlantis. So this is an option for that. But then that little princess keyword in there might make a difference for a different deck. So while it is a goon, it's not exactly a reprint of what we already have.
Yeah,
very true.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
I had not picked up on the princess keyword, so that's a good point. I brought it up because I also love the Atlantean, and I love seeing the creative team have fun, whether it's Frame Breaks or Atlantean or the puppies. Like the puppies were like the creative team getting the concept art and being like, hey, let's just do all of this art. Like I love all these concepts. So
and it's funny too because all of these concepts they're not new concepts within the realm of TCGs, but you can apply it to Disney and you've got so much to work from, and it feels new. Like it can feel new from a thematic perspective, even though the concept isn't necessarily new, and that's okay. I think we're all here for it.
Yeah. Yep. I'm right there with you.
And do y'all know what it says? That it's
Yes.
But
no, I don't. What does it say?
Does the audience know it? Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Inklands. Yeah. I love it. It's just fun. I hope, Magic's doing this thing where they have like Phyrexian text and more cards coming out with that. I hope one day we can have like an all Atlantean deck. We'll see. Let's move on. I got 2 more ones that I thought were fun. This one.
It's like Cyclonic Rift on a body. What's not to love about this card? For those who don't know what Cyclonic Rift is,
says the Cyclonic Rift player.
You either love it or you hate it.
Exactly. Yes. For those who don't know, Cyclonic Rift is a card which basically kind of says does the take them by surprise thing is basically what it is. But it's very cool. I like I said, there's nothing to not like about this card. I take that back. When you're on the opposite end of it, that's what's not to like about it.
Yes, that's what's not to like.
Yeah.
The uninkable has me a little on edge. You've got Baby Milo and you've got Morph that you can shift it onto. But yeah, I'm that uninkable has me that could be stuck in your hand for a while.
We used to have a thing when Jim and I would look at cards, uninkable equals bad card. that was our joke. But speaking of the uninkable, is it just me, or does it feel like a lot of the high cost Emerald cards are all uninkable? Because now you have this, you have the 8-drop Genie, you have Mickey Artful Rogue. Like so many of the cards, like I want to build a deck together, but I'm not doing that when they're all uninkable.
Yep. Yeah.
So they got to go in certain decks, but that's okay because then it's fun to build a deck all around it. So
well, and as you highlighted, like an uninkable 2 cost is a lot different than an uninkable like 7 cost or 8 cost. Like
7.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't see the cost of the card because my little slide advancer is on top of it. So 7, yeah.
This right, one also, I don't know if anyone pointed out that there's frame breaks in that one too.
You know, I had not noticed, but as soon as you said
it's both
tip of the
with the art, the tip of the spear, and then also the like ribbons coming down into that center.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Those little, frame breaks and things like that don't have to be huge. Like just this small little like nuanced ones like that, or sometimes just yeah. That's a good point. I hadn't noticed. All right, last one because I find this card so interesting.
Speaking of uninkable Emerald cards, look, it's another one.
Emerald players get so excited when there's an inkable card because we have so many uninkable Emerald good cards.
Very true. Very true. But I mean, other than that, I mean, it's an uninkable 3 cost, 2 for 1. It gives me what's the name? John Silver vibes because he's got the on play chosen character gains reckless. I do like the thanks for volunteering because I can even remember him saying it in the movie. Whenever one of your other characters is banished, each opponent loses 1 lore. Leaning into the Emerald theme. Interested to see it. To be honest, this probably won't see a lot of play, but who knows? We're so far out. Who knows? But I love the concept of Emerald. I want to build a deck around it, but people probably won't like that.
Yeah.
I want to build like a specific multiplayer deck. Yeah, multiplayer.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's true. In single player, like or 1v1, it seems like an anti-aggro card to me. Kind of like Jasper was included a lot of the times to like counter the high 5. And we just don't see that much aggro in the meta. There's a little bit, but it just doesn't seem like a card that's super useful right now against control decks, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of the aggro is that the hyper aggro amethyst or amber is typically the colors you'll see the hyper aggro in. So
yeah, Jonty's saying, and I'm sure he has a lot to say about this card. It's one of the more playable cards he thinks from the Atlantis drop. I think I agree. I just think it definitely has a role in kind of that anti-aggro space, and I think it'll see a lot of play, like in multiplayer and stuff. So we'll see it appear over time in like various iterations of decks. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, because it's interesting playing against a lot of Amethyst Goat builds of how do you slow these people down. If you want to slow people down, it seems like Emerald is your color to slow people down. And I don't think the color has been explored enough yet. But again, we're only 2 sets in. There's not a lot of the card pool is very limited. So the thing that I'm most excited about in set 3 is to see the more options we're going to have from a deck building perspective and the other types of decks that are going to gain prominence. I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Jonty is correct. In his defense, I was playing a meta Steel Song list, and he was experimenting a little bit. So
that always feels bad. Bringing experimental deck against the.
I felt bad.
Meta deck. Did you? You don't seem that upset about it.
I felt a little bit bad in the moment, and then I got over it.
Fair. And here we are. So if y'all don't mind, like that was fun. I appreciate that. Those are some cards I really wanted to talk about because there are 3 that I absolutely love, and I love Atlantis, so it was good to see them.
Who doesn't? Such a good one.
Yeah, so many good one-liners.
Seen it.
But so to yes, that is true, Rebecca. You need to.
I
You need to see
know.
it.
It's on my list.
Yes.
I will watch it. Now I have to watch it.
Jonty, I am sorry.
You do. You get all the references, and it'll be fun. So let's move into our main discussion, our meaty topic for the evening. And there's so much to talk about here. We're not gonna crack it in like 30 minutes and stuff, but at least we can kind of explore the space. And I kind of wanted to start by turning it over to Rebecca, not to put you on the spot, but this issue is so interesting because every player, in a TCG has, is coming at it from a unique spot. They're a certain mix of casual competitive. They might be pure casual, they might be pure competitive, but oftentimes I feel like players are a mix of the two. And so everybody kind of has their own experience in the TCG space. And you had an experience, and your experience in the last couple of league seasons, led you to kind of start a debate on Twitter, which I think was super productive. And I thought I'd turn it over to you to kind of to kind of discuss your experience.
Nobody hears of that though. A debate on Twitter that was actually productive.
That's fair.
It's funny.
Well, it led to this.
Sure.
Yeah, and we gotta crack it. So Jonty and Brent. Well, then Jonty, your show will be so short. Like play the replay and yep. So anyway, I don't know. So Rebecca, I thought I'd start out by turning it over to you and getting kind of your initial thoughts, and we can go anywhere with this. But
anyway, I know it's hard to decide which direction to go. I will say I didn't mean to throw a match out into, some dry brush with my tweet, but I have been going to League regularly since the game started in September, when League started up here. I think I missed the very first week, and I missed weeks here and there. And there was just some experiences that I had recently, or that my mom, who's 60 something years old, had, and that I see my son have. And I'm like, man, this, it's not as friendly for casual players as I would like it to be. And that gets frustrating after week after week after week after week after week. And so I put this thing out there about the experience that casual players, I think, often encounter. It was really encouraging, though, to hear that that's not everyone's experience. And so it's not everyone everywhere. It's not all. And there definitely is that spectrum of competitive to casual. I think you also have, a player who maybe is more competitive, but still really enjoys casual play, and vice versa, a casual player, who really likes competitive play, and just how in the Lorcana community as a whole can we be more welcoming to all the different kinds of players that there are out there, and that I see opportunity for, especially at the local game store level, for that to be better. And I think there's some things that Ravensburger can do as well to support that, from the top down. And so it did open up this discussion, which I think is great. And I think it's awesome that everyone's willing to talk about it. And, what is the solution? I don't think there's a solution, but it's definitely a conversation that needs to happen, instead of, ignoring it, and just saying, well, it is what it is. Like, it is what it is not okay for me.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure everybody's eager to jump in, but I guess if we acknowledge, and if we all agree, and I think Ravensburger agrees, that, Lorcana in particular, out of all TCGs, is a game that should be, very, very welcoming to new TCG players, to people of all ages, all demographics. They're really looking to build, as, Ryan has said before, like a new TCG audience, bringing experienced players, but bringing new players. If that's the goal, and we're having this discussion, I guess the big question is, do we think that broadly there is an issue, in the Lorcana space? I don't know. What are everyone's thoughts?
All right, so I'll jump in first. So Rebecca, let me ask you. So obviously you're talking about your experiences, right? What from your experiences was it so far that has, I don't know if turned you off is a good expression to use, but what are some things that you've seen that in your eyes is a turnoff for the more casual player? Let's start there.
Sure. I will start by saying the LGS that I go to is actually fantastic, and the players there are wonderful and some of the nicest people. Like, they are great, and those competitive players want to win. And they are so kind and willing to like teach, like I've had my son like putting his cards all out on the table literally and having other competitive players like help him with this deck and everything. But when it comes to the actual like playing and like earning points and getting those promo cards and the pins, and like for the Disney fans and more casual players, that we want to come, we want to play, we want to have fun, we want to win maybe a few games and also like get some of the cool prizes, and to go months and months without ever getting anything, and that the prizes all go to the same 6 people every week, depending on who gets in the top 4. It makes it just, because of the way the point system, like in the OP kit, it says, you get extra points for wins. So there's just a really big incentive for people to win games. And I've had league players actually say to me like, oh yeah, it'd be fun to have a theme deck, but I'm never going to do that because I want to win. So I'm always going to bring my meta deck to league.
Sure.
And so, yeah. So I think did that answer your question?
Yeah. So I'm curious how your LGS does their prizing.
Because that's going to vary.
Correct. So I'll tell you how our LGS does it. Because I know everybody does it completely differently, right? Yeah. So for our LGS, and I think our LGS does it. They've got a good mix of both worlds, right? And the way that they hand out the prizing is the more wins you have, the more packs you get. However, they don't do that for promos and pins. I got lucky the last 2 weeks I went because I got a pin both times. The way they do the pins is they raffle off the pins. They do have, and basically they put it in a wheel. And if you get more wins or you get more points within the system, you get more entries into the raffle. And so the first raffle gets first choice, second gets second choice, third gets third choice. So that's how they hand out the pins and the promo cards. Everyone walks out of there with a promo card and a pack at bare minimum. It's they just raffle off the pins. So I like how they do that. How does your LGS handle the pins? Because I think, aren't the pins and the promos like the biggest thing that everyone for the most part wants, or is more packs also part of it as well?
Yeah, they do. So actually, season 1, it was all the promo cards and pins went to top players. In season 2, they did change it so that the top players got packs, and then they're doing like the top people with points over like a round, of 4 weeks. The top point earners will get the promo cards, and they do some raffles as well. And when you have a league of 30 people, your chances of winning a raffle are still just as good as pulling an enchanted sometimes.
But I think with the pins,
it's a mix.
With the pins, they have a very set, they've got a limited amount of pins to give out. It's not like everybody can get a pin. And tell me if I'm saying anything that's incorrect, because I'm pretty sure I think that's right.
Yeah. I think there's only... Yeah, they only get so many with the promo, with the league.
Yeah, it was like 30. I was looking at it the other day.
Yeah.
I'd have to pull it up, but okay. All right. I don't want to keep talking, so somebody just tell me to stop talking.
I was gonna say, like, it is interesting because Rebecca, like, you shared that story, like, hey, I've been to league, this many times. I've been playing this game, a ton, since it came out, and I've walked away with like very few promo cards, and like the number of people, even in the chat right now, who piled on and said, yeah, that was my experience as well. I've been going to league for ages, and the promo cards and everybody goes to the same folks. And one of the things that I pointed out when this debate started was, hey, Ravensburger gives stores flexibility to structure their leagues however they want to, and that this is purely a local solution, and the game stores should cater to their player base. And the counter to that came back, and it's absolutely true. People pointed out, yes, but Ravensburger in the league guidelines gives an example. Now it's just an example, but they give an example and say, here's how you could do it. Wins equal points was the first thing. And so any store who, either, just has never run a league before, perhaps, or goes with that structure, or, thinks that that's the way they have to do it, is immediately going to, implement a win-loss system for points, which is immediately going to reward the competitive experienced players, and it's going to lead to an experience where the new players get shut out. And so that's kind of where, I don't know, that's just to provide some more,
What's interesting about that, I was thinking about that, getting more points for wins and how it incentivizes, more competitive play. But like, would there be a way to host a league? Mine is structured that it's a 3-round Swiss, best of 3. But would there be a way to structure a league where it was more just like open play?
Yes,
so if you have 2 people that are like, hey, I just have my starter deck and we're going to play against each other, and then one of those people walks away with the wins and they get 2 points instead of 1, that's very different than a best of 3, Swiss situation for a casual player.
Yep.
That's fair.
So
what we did with our league, to your point of what you were saying earlier, where Ravensburger straight up came out and said, wins equals points. We said, okay, we're going to take that incentive away. And it said, if you want to play 1 versus 1, which is inherently adversarial, you're sitting down to somebody across from somebody and saying, I'm better than you. I'm about to prove it. And then you both try to do that exact same thing. Somebody is walking away a loser. Somebody is walking away with less points. We said, okay, if you want to do that, 2 points for the win, 1 point for the loss, or you can play multiplayer. Everybody gets 2 points. You're taking away the incentive and saying, y'all win, have a good time. You're getting more people involved that way. You're being more conversational that way. And rather than have the structure of a tournament and have pairings and that kind of stuff, we just said, let's find people to play with. Let's start learning people's names. Let's start just treating them as though they are the families that we want to see, and interacting with them as family. Finding out, kind of having a conversation or a day 0 or rule 0 conversation until we get to know the players. And then we can say, okay, what kind of game do we want to have, and make it an interactive experience where we all get to engage in something cool. And at the end, we still get our points. Where what we have done is really emphasized the lower aspects of it, where it says if you get like 3 items or 4 items in a turn, then you get a point, and that kind of thing. Yeah. And we highlight the cool stuff, and when that happens, we're hooting and hollering. And the league runner, if somebody brings a particularly strangely themed or narrowly themed deck, they might just get a point for that because they're trying something cool. And ultimately, what we do is everybody gets a pack per week, and we budgeted at a pack and a half. The first, and so it's a 4-week league, but the extra half packs all go on the 4th week. That week we will do a tournament, and everyone knows this is coming. So everyone's still walking away with something. It is set. The packs are separate from the pins. The pins are all about points, and if there's ties for points, then we'll raffle them for whoever got the most points. You're maxing out on points every week. We capped it at 10, so it's just going to end up being random. Everybody has a relatively fair chance of getting a pin. Promos, it's literally as simple as, I don't know, what one do you want? And we just kind of trade them with each other. It's not necessarily one promo 1 week, run promo another week. It's just, do you want 4 of one? You can get 4 of one. We don't care. And if anybody ends up with extras, they just swap amongst themselves. But yeah, then the extra packs at the end will go to a tournament. It's a more gentle prizing curve, so that we distribute a little bit more prizes to more participants, but it's still going to be top heavy, right? Like we're still there to win. And the idea is, we're telling people, we're telling families, we're telling kids, we're telling anybody that wants to. If you're a person and you have cards that are, say, Lorcana, and you want to turn them sideways, come on out. Let's have a good time. We'll find a way to engage with you with a smile, meet you where you're at. And the word I like to use when it comes to these leagues and growing the community is intentionality. What do you want to grow? And then you state that you find people that are like that. You work with the store to find a space for that. And that's something that we haven't spoken a lot about, even in the Twitter discourse. The store is an important part of it. You need a willing partner. And it's not to say that they limit it, but you got to have a place to play. It has to work out for them financially too. Right. There is that aspect, and it can't be forgotten. And I think it's important. So not only do you need the willingness of them to let you all in and provide that space, but them to also say, we want to support a league like this. And we said from the beginning, this is a straight up intentionally casual league where we don't want to put the emphasis on the spiky competition. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want those players to have that place to play. It's important, and it's just as worthy as the casual setting. And I don't even like the juxtaposing of casual versus competitive, because Liam, I think you're right. There is a blend of the two.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's necessarily a better way to summarily put it out there. Right. So that's kind of what we've done for the start. It's worked well so far. We've had multiple families. We've grown each of the first 2 weeks. We're in a mall, for crying out loud, and the store has decided they're going to stay open to accommodate it. So they're open past closing hours.
Cool.
Thank you so much for that. But yeah, it's worked very well so far. I'm really looking forward to how that 4th week tournament goes. I'm curious to see what we get out of that. But so far it's working okay, and I couldn't be happier about it.
Yeah. Scott, you said nothing that I disagree with. You're all
right.
Yes.
You're 100% right. I think the entire conversation is easily summarized by communicate with your store with what you want. Number one. Number two, go to a store that caters to what you want. And now, not everyone lives in an area that they have options for multiple LGSs. In that case, again, it comes back to communicate with the store of what kind of environment are you looking for, right? This entire conversation, I put out on Twitter earlier, we've had this discussion. I can't tell you how many years it comes up. It literally comes up every few months in TCG communities, for the same reasons, right? And for a lot of people in Lorcana, this is your first exposure to a TCG, and this might be your first conversation with this. And hey, that's okay. That's totally fine. There are a lot of us who've been around and seen these types of conversations, and it's always fun. It's always fun to engage in them, right? But communicate. I'll give you a quick story real quick, because it's funny. On Friday, me, Jim, and another friend of ours went to our league. I brought 3 decks, one for each of us. They were meta decks, but I did not bring Ruby Amethyst, because that's just so oppressive. I was like, nah, we're not going to do that. So we brought a bunch of other stuff. My second game, I think it was my second or third game, I played against a guy, just pulled all these packs, no sleeves, no play mat, just shuffling everything. I'm like, it was his first time playing, and he had a great time. He ended up beating me because the deck that he was playing just honestly really countered to what I was playing. We had a great discussion. It was a great time, but it cemented this in my mind of the individual players within the community have to take it upon themselves. You have to foster the type of community that you want. If the store may not be giving you the types of games you want, it's really up to all of us individually within the community. We have to foster the environment that we want to play in. If I don't like what the store is doing, again, keep having those conversations of what types of games you want to play. And then when you play with other people, again, just be the player that you want to sit down across the table from. It comes down to individuals within said community.
Yeah, I think it is difficult when you're in a smaller community, population-wise, where maybe there is only one store, and from a store's perspective, there's only so many nights per week. There's only so many hours they're open. There's only so much table space that they can dedicate to this stuff, and so they're going to have to do what's in their best interest, because they're there to make money, right? So I really do empathize with folks that are in a situation like that, and they maybe don't have the easiest time to just go to a different store or find a different night. I think all of us on here have day jobs. We might have kids. There's distractions. We might not be able to make the Tuesday night league when the casual league is. And you may not be able to start one of your own on a different night. So I get that just because it's successful for us doesn't mean it's automatically successful anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there hasn't been a group or I should say a popular game that I've seen where if you wanted to, there was a way to find some outlet for the way you were trying to play.
Yeah.
In a at least moderately populated area. So yeah, it takes that intentionality. And the one thing you said earlier too, we're dealing with a lot of times this is people's first TCGs.
Yep.
And so there is an element I feel for myself. It is incumbent upon me to welcome those new players and say, please come have fun. Let me help you to enjoy this hobby that I've loved for the better part of 30 years. How can I help you do that? What first off, what's your name? Let me call you by your name, right?
Yeah. Hey guy,
hey
you.
Right. So let's start there. And have just normal people conversations and learn about each other. I somewhat joke, but I don't. Lorcana means family. It's proven true so far for the content creators. I think we saw that during Citizens of Lorcana's live stream for their 1 year anniversary, where everybody was talking about the gathering at Gen Con and how that was just the most impactful thing. It goes beyond that into your smaller local communities too. And I just really, really encourage everybody to be intentional with it, develop those relationships, find ways, strive to create ways if you have to bring in those people that you know are there. You know they're there. Rebecca, you're not the only one. I promise you, you're not.
I know I'm not. Yeah.
Right.
They're in the chat too. Yeah.
Right. So I'm very passionate about let's find others like us and continue to help each other build ways to make those spaces competitive, casual, anything in between, successful.
And the game needs both, right?
Yes,
to
100%.
Survive for years and years to come. We need to have both a strong competitive component to the game and a strong casual, thriving community for the game to survive in, for years and years. And I know that I saw a couple comments in the chat of like, sometimes, and I think that even Liam, you said this, competitive players can sometimes be villainized, and hopefully I've not said anything that has come across that way, because I enjoy, as a more casual player, I do enjoy dipping my toes into the competitive side, and the competitive players that I know are all great, and I definitely don't want to villainize that side of it, and I think it's great. The only thing I would push back on a little bit is that, as far as the intentionality and creating welcoming community, is that for casual players in particular, is it shouldn't be on the casual players to ask for that. Like, yeah, especially people who are newer to TCGs and new to the game. Like, we can't expect somebody who's new. They just picked up a starter deck for them and their 10-year-old kid, and they come in and play, and it was an uncomfortable experience. It shouldn't be on them to talk to the LGS owner about it. It's up to the store and the players who are already there to be like, hey, how can we be welcoming to those people that might walk in and want to engage with this game in that kind of way, and make it that way so that those people can come into the store and feel like they have a place. And so I think that that's a nuanced distinction there, is that, that it shouldn't be on the new player to ask for something that they feel is not there. It needs to be, they need to be invited in, like you were saying, Scott. Like, well, they need to be welcomed.
Yeah, Katie in the chat from Live Off Lorcana agreeing with you. Weighing in. I think it's a great point. Somebody pointed out, I do want to bring something up. Lucas is saying, and we also had this comment, on Twitter, that one of the challenges right now is that League is like the only way to play. Because Ravensburger was so slow in rolling out, for good reason. It's not a criticism. It's, get the distribution figured out, get all that out. But because there wasn't organized like competitive events like the set championships that they're doing, or the new the tour that is going to be run, that League was it. So competitive casuals, like that was your venue. Is that part of the issue right now?
Well, the one thing that I would say is it's not though. Like I understand what you're all saying, and I kind of agree with it, but I'll throw a wrench in it here for a second. There's this stat 90 less than 1 out of 10 Magic players have never played in a sanctioned Magic event, right? So what does that mean? Over 90% of Magic players play at their kitchen table. So, and I think that's something that's also lost too, is you don't have to go to League to be able to play Lorcana, number one. Number two, we're only in set 2. Like they, again, in talking to Steve as much as a lot of us did at Gen Con, I genuinely believe they don't think they were blown away by how successful this game has been already in set 2. They're like, oh wait, you guys want all of this? Like I think the community is kind of, they're not really, because again, I've been in this space for a while. They're kind of asking for a lot and they're just not ready yet. And so when we get more OP stuff, get more OP support, then there's going to be more avenues for the competitive players. I mean, look, if you watch any of our videos, you know I can be very competitive. I don't like to lose, even if I'm in a casual setting. If I'm in a casual or competitive
I don't like to
setting.
lose either.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So my whole thing, I was talking with Jacob from Ready Set Draw earlier, and he even came to the same conclusion. It's like right now, I think we just have to be patient. You just got to be patient for those more other avenues to kick up. And again, like Magic's been going for 30 years. Do they have it all figured out? No. Yeah, John T knows all full well. And so I think Lorcana is the Lorcana community and the game is in a good spot, you know, when you've got a lot of people like this. And again, as a more experienced player, again, I try to when I go, I take it upon myself to, hey, you're new here. All right, let's show you the ropes. What are you looking for? So it's, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think like Rebecca, you kind of, I mean, you and kind of hit it on the head, or the nail on the head earlier when you said, you know, that it is up to everybody. Like this starts at the top, and there are things that Ravensburger can do to influence the system. It's up to the game store, but really, like it is also up to us as a community. And like you just said, Dan, like it's up to us interacting with other players in the game store when they walk in, making sure that everybody feels welcome and acknowledging that not everybody is looking for the same experience that we are. And everybody's coming at the game, you know, from a different place, a different experience level, different experience with TCGs, a different comfort level with social interactions.
Oh, 100%.
You know? And that's another piece of it.
100%. Especially a lot of us content creators. I'm very outgoing, and many other content creators are more outgoing. That's not the typical clientele who frequents these game stores. Like for some people, and I know plenty of them, taking a step like into a place that's filled with people you don't know is some of the hardest things that they try and do, right? The last thing that I will say is, again, people, we keep using the term casual, and that's okay. But what are you talking about? Define your term. What do you mean casual? If you want to win, there's some component that is competitive. If you want to win, there's some component somewhere that wants to win, and that's fine. That's okay. But we have to agree on some sort of baseline terms. Like, what do you mean when you say casual? Because I think it gets lost in the weeds a lot of what are we trying to talk about there?
Yeah, that's fair.
Ask me about Lorcana.
I was just laughing at the sandwich board comment.
Ask me about Lorcana.
Eric is only half joking too. I'm pretty sure that he's partially serious.
No, he's not joking. He's not joking at all. Have you met Eric? Come on.
That is true.
Yeah. I do think though, like you're saying, like defining like what does competitive mean or casual mean, and like and I might be totally wrong, but a lot of it for me is just like how much time and money, resources am I investing in learning the strategy and how to win, right? And how, like, am I going to my game store multiple times a week and watching the YouTube videos and spending extra money to get the right cards in my deck and following the meta and learning the strategy and blah, blah, that? Do I even have the time to do that? For me, like mostly no, but I still have fun and I still want to win, right? Sure. And so it's like, that's where it's like kind of tricky, because it's like, oh, I have a competitive like spirit in me, but I'm not investing the time and money and whatever else to like become a quote unquote competitive player, you know? And so I think you're going to have a lot of people like that. Like,
and you can also have people who are going to sit in that casual setting. They'll lose and they'll get salty when they lose because they have that competitive. I speak from experience. You can watch plenty of videos. Okay. I laugh at myself all the time. It's okay. So, but again, that's why I think it's important to, again, and I own everything that I do, right? And if I'm in a situation, especially with people that I don't know, the guy who beat me, great example. Was I happy that I lost? I wasn't happy that I lost, but we start talking, we keep talking, and I'm like, hey man, you know, this was fun. Where'd you get all this stuff? We had a great conversation. I still didn't like that I lost, right? Because that's just like, that's me as a person. So
I think the other thing that gets a little hard with casual play is when you talk about kids, especially because as adults, we can manage our emotions and our disappointment and frustration about losing, and you know, whether it was like a misplay or whatever the reasons were. But for kids, like, it's hard to like manage the emotions and frustration that come with losing. And so when kids walk into a league that's full of competitive players and then they're just getting smashed, it's so much harder for kids to like deal with that. And so that's also something else that needs to be taken into consideration too, because adults we can adult for the most part.
And for you, this is a family game. And
listen, my 14-year-old son comes, and my, like I said, 60 something, I won't say her age, but she comes with her cards in a Ziploc baggie.
That's cool.
To leave,
that's really cool.
You know, and so it's like, 3 generations. My sister comes sometimes too, which is cool. When she can, she has young kids, so it's hard. So we and even between the 3 of us and my family, we all engage in the game very differently. You know, and anyway,
this game is the first one that I can recall that has legitimately had an opportunity to appeal tri-generationally to 3 different generations, and is to some extent reaching them, and that alone means we need to have these conversations about what type, like, how do we engage with this community as a whole? There is no one size fits all solution, but it sure would help if we could define the sizes. You know, and that's where I think the conversations comes from. What do we want? You know, what do we need leagues specifically for children? Do we need leagues specifically for adults? Things like that. I don't know the answers to these. I'm clueless.
Natalie or Lorcana, I'm with you. I get it.
So highlight that comment.
It is interesting, like, to think about in the future, like, what is it that we'd want to see? Like, more, you know, having separate competitive league versus casual league or kid league. You know, I know Pokemon, doesn't Pokemon do that, where a lot of stores will host like junior league kind of thing? I'm not familiar with that and everything, but is that the answer? I don't know. But
so I know we probably want to wrap this up a little bit, Liam. I don't know, but I'm gonna leave the last thing that I will say about this, right, is I'm gonna leave with the take it upon yourself to foster the kind of community that you want to develop. Okay. Because I will always err on the side of individuality, right? A good example is when I started going to my LGS years ago, which has since closed. Part of the reason Jim and I started Hobbies and Happiness. Started creating relationships, found other people who are on the same wavelength as me, right? And then once I learned Commander, hey, this is a great game, this is a great format. Hey, who are all of you people? Hey, let me get all of your phone numbers. Now, all right, I'm gonna host game night at my place. Why don't y'all come over? Let's have a monthly Commander night, okay? And I found those people at my LGS, right? Did I still go to the LGS? Yeah, but I probably played more with these people when they came over to my place and hung out, right? And again, what I talked about before, how we're only on set 2. More formats are going to come out, more different ways to play are going to come out. I am constantly looking at, if you've watched any of our content, you know, we're looking at doing multiplayer stuff on our on our channel. I love multiplayer. I want there to be a different way to play the game, because even the way to play the game right now is fun, but once we get more cards, I just love experimenting with different ways to play and different ways to play that are going to cater to how I want to deck build. I'm currently building budget decks that are like $30-$40, and then when I play them on ladder, it's like you play anybody against Ruby. It's Monstrous Dragon, Be Prepared, Lady Tremaine. Like, I'm not including any of those cards because people maybe don't want to spend that much money, and there's other ways that you can play. So I'm taking it upon myself, because that's kind of how I like to have fun. But you know, that doesn't alleviate the problems. I think we all know that, but I think it does help your local community by you trying to do what you can do for your locals. But that's just me.
I agree with everything everybody said. This has been great. I do want to transition here for a moment as we get to the end of the show. I want to bring in another guest to change subjects slightly. But before I do that, I want to say, and we'll wrap up later. But this is a great discussion. Somebody said something about like a juniors league, and that was mentioned in the chat. I just have to say, my best experience with Magic the Gathering was back when I was a kid. Magic used to do this thing called Junior Super Series, which was a national championship for 16 and under kids. And that was my first competitive event that I ever played in. And I took that experience there, and that kind of broke down a barrier for me, you know, playing other, you know, kids. And then I played in a state tournament and did terribly, but I did it, playing against adults as like a 17-year-old. And looking back, you know, it's probably my favorite experience in the game of Magic ever was the Junior Super Series, and they did away with it. So I do hope that we see some sort of, you know, age bracket tournaments, because I think that would be great. And John T's done something like this up in his store, which I'm sure.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. I do want to. I could talk about this all night. I do want to transition. I have one more guest to bring in who may want to weigh in, because he's a huge Pokemon collector and started collecting Pokemon as a kid, and now he's living his best life as the owner of Miami TCG. I do want to bring in Eric Gonzalez. Hey, Eric.
What's up, Eric?
How's it going, guys?
There it is.
Hey, there he is.
I wanted to bring Eric. I will ask about this, but the big reason I wanted to bring him in is all of us right now are planning our travel years. You know, we're waiting for a competitive event announcement. We're looking at D23. We're looking at Gen Con, PAX Unplugged. You know, 1K popping up everywhere, and we're trying to figure out, you know, where we're going to go. And Miami TCG Con, I wanted to make sure that was on everybody's radar, because Eric is doing something really cool this year. And if you're interested in the art of the game at all, and tournaments as well, I wanted to make sure Miami's on your radar as something you may want to go to. So Eric, you've teased a few things this year that you're doing different than last year. What's going on this October?
Well, October 5th and 6th, we are going to be having our third Miami TCG convention. We've already announced that over 20 Lorcana illustrators will be attending. I think we're at 22 or 23 right now. We have some ambitious goals. The majority are international. Some first appearances in America. Nicholas Cole already, you know, made it known he's coming. It's going to be pretty spectacular. We're going to have another large tournament. We haven't decided how big yet, but we've rented more space. So tournament-wise, we plan on offering more than, say, just Lorcana, but we could just have a gigantic Lorcana tournament. The cool thing about the venue is there's over 170,000 square feet, and we're only looking to use about 75,000. On top of that, we have some really big sponsorships we're going to be announcing over the next couple of weeks, 2 months. Vendors space is available March 1st. April 1st, tickets will be available for sale at around half price of what they'll be selling for at the event. And you know, it's important to me to get as many Lorcana fans as possible out to meet these artists, to congregate, get together, have a good time. The hotel's phenomenal. It's a big one where you have like a mall inside. So it's easy to hang out. It's 3 miles from the airport. There's free shuttles to and from the airport. And we're trying to make this a Lorcana-centric event. while it is a big Pokemon card event.
Yeah, I just love. I mean, I love the focus on the artists. I mean, the tournament was great. It was huge, and as somebody in the chat, Waylon pointed out, it spiked the price of a number of cards that event alone. But I love meeting the artists. Nicholas Cole being there is huge. I'm excited for a couple guests you have yet to announce, which I'm not going to say anything other than it'll be their first U.S. appearances, and they're the most wonderful people, and I'm super excited to meet them. So yeah, it wouldn't be fair to make people guess. I don't want to spoil them. So yeah, Eric, what? So that's on people's radars. Remind everybody again the date. October 5th.
October 5th and 6th.
All right. So if you're interested at all, in tournaments, but also, meeting Lorcana artists, a lot of Lorcana artists, then make sure that's on your radar. I do want to ask as we get into closing, Eric, you've been listening to some of this conversation. You were a Pokemon collector, as from, gosh, 5, 6. What are your thoughts on this kind of casual versus competitive environment, and how to get, how to make the game appeal and accessible to people of all ages and all experience levels?
I think casual wise, the best way is at home, as mentioned, those home games. Because when you're in a store, I mean, I don't know how casual you can possibly be with strangers unless you're just learning the game together, or let's just say a new chapter release and you guys are playing with decks and you're trying to figure it out. I think that it's just a very competitive environment when you're battling anybody in any type of game, whether it's video games or card games. So I think that the casual is the home play or with family members. But family members will start arguing like a Monopoly game. So, but yeah, I just think competition is the key here within reason, with all due respect. I haven't played yet. I said I would, but I end up too busy when I meet the artists and I can't sit them down to play with me. So I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah. I know.
Now you need to throw that question up. There's been the same question that keeps popping up about Brandon. Can we get that question pop up?
I've been sort of paying attention. Is B-Squared invited to the cast?
There we go.
I don't know what this is referencing. I don't,
because Brandon always puts out on Twitter, hey, anybody looking to do a tournament, I'm open to cast, just let me know.
Oh, yeah.
And so chat keeps bringing it up. Brandon, you did prompt it because you put it out on Twitter, man. Come on.
I was going to say it's out on this. Yep.
See, I want to do stuff like that. I just don't put it out on Twitter. I'm like, I don't even really have the time.
I will say Brandon's good. I will say, like, I did a cast with him. A couple months ago now. We cast remotely at Tampa TCG Con, and it was good. It was fun.
I can do
remote of a cast. That was 8 hours, I think.
It was It was too, yeah. I didn't math right. Now I do. Like, now I go to an event and I'm like, how many people do you have? And I go, okay, that means 9 Swiss rounds. That means 10 hours. And then I make sure to have my snacks and my lickies and chewies, because never again.
I feel like almost every misplay I have, I can say that I didn't math right.
Yeah. Math is hard.
Yeah,
math is for blockers.
There you go. Beat me to it. Yep.
And there are no blockers in Lorcana. So what excuse do you have? Come on.
It's be prepared and have a nice day, right?
There you go.
That's right.
I'm surprised. I don't think I saw it. I thought someone for sure was going to say, if you're not Ruby Amethyst, you're casual. I mean, it isn't that.
That's funny.
I mean, but that little dude, seriously, the first time I went, I felt bad because all I had out and ready to go was Ruby Amethyst. I'm like, all right, I know I'm probably going to do well, but I feel bad, but I don't have time to pull any other cards, so I guess I'm playing Ruby Amethyst. Yep. And I went 4-0, surprise, surprise. And then the next week, I'm like, all right, I know I'm going, I know Jim is going, and I know Noah's coming, so I will build one deck for each of us using the 6 colors, and one of the color combinations will not be Ruby Amethyst. And I don't think anybody played Ruby Amethyst at League that night. So, yeah, Eric, I did feel bad, all right? So leave me alone.
House rules. No Ruby Amethyst. You can play Ruby Amethyst, or you can play Ruby. You can play Amethyst. You can't put them.
Can't play them together.
That's funny. No, I like it. One of the things, Eric, I appreciate about what you're doing at Miami TCG Con is You know, a lot of people have pointed out that League is one of the only venues for organized Lorcana play right now, and so some places it goes competitive just because it's the only venue. And you know, conventions like yours, where you're offering organized tournaments, gives an outlet to a lot of competitive players, which is great. People can really go there and test their mettle against some of the best in the country. It gives them something to shoot for. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. I also will say, we don't even, the one cool thing is we don't put the tournament inside of the convention. So if you don't want to go to the convention, you can still participate in the tournament, even though it's in the same building. It's very close to one another, just an escalator ride away. Yeah, that's one of the benefits to the players that don't want to partake in the tournament, or I mean in the convention.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. I have to admit, I was having so much fun with the artists last year that I missed most of the event because that was upstairs in a separate venue. But popping up there was really cool. PPG did a fantastic job running that event, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
All right.
we're big fans of PPG. I'll just say that.
Yeah, and they're great, and they've done some amazing Lorcana tournaments. I have to plug them. You know, we're going to be going to TCG Houston here next weekend, not this coming weekend, but next weekend. And Jack Patillo and I are going to cover their tournament down there. I tried to get Brandon to come as well, and he couldn't make it. But we're going to cast the tournament down there. So PPG is going to be running it. It's going to be a great event. So, we're hitting an hour. It's getting close to This Week in Ink. I will say they're probably going to have to cancel the show, though. They were going to talk about this very subject we covered tonight, and we solved the problem. You know, I apologize that Brandon and John have nothing to talk about. But no, in all seriousness,
sorry,
I really
he's not sorry.
Yeah, I'm a little sorry. I really appreciate the conversation. I really appreciate, you know, us trying to tackle the subject. It's nuanced. And I'm sure we didn't quite solve anything, but perhaps at the very least, you know, everybody watching, you know, gained a little bit some perspective from other people in the space that they may not have had before. And that's really what it's all about, is kind of gaining those perspectives and being able to empathize with, you know, other players and people in the game who might be experiencing it different than you. So, yeah, and John is saying they're just going to be staring at Atlantis cards. So
standing. They're going to be standing them, Leanne.
Standing cards. Staining the Atlantis cards. So I do want to go around the horn and you know, for any closing thoughts, I do want to give a shout out though before I do that to Stephen Gettle. Thanks so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Like, that means a lot. So hopefully this stream is worthwhile. But I'm going to go over Scott. Any closing thoughts from you on this topic? I know it's a big one, and we'll probably continue the debate afterwards. But any residual thoughts that you want to share?
Yeah, so the last two thoughts. One, make sure everybody tunes in to hear Jonty and Brandon's continued conversation on the topic. The other is, real quickly, Katie, I agree with you in that best of three can be a little bit much for casual. I much prefer just a series of best of ones, and especially to get me to interact with as many different people as possible. So I think there's multiple benefits from doing that.
I appreciate it. And make sure, you know, everybody, you can follow Scott on Twitter at, let me pull up the thing. Boom, there it is. God, so prepared. Make sure you follow Scott. His thoughts on you know, Lorcana and TCGs are always fun to follow. So he's on Twitter at Cypher1000. Dan, over to you. Any closing thoughts on the subject?
Well, first of all, you can watch Jonty and Brandon if you want. You don't have to. I mean, they're okay.
Well, they're okay. I was going to watch when I thought he had credibility, but now that I heard he lost to you and didn't win a game,
right?
I'm wondering.
Right. It's the Brandon show.
They're okay. They're all right. Yeah. So I mean, look, my last thing is be the always look inward, right, as best you can. You know, control what you can control. You can't control everything, right? But control what you can control. Develop the kind of communities that you want to see. Be the player that you want to sit across the table from. And then if you're not, I really do feel for people who really only have like one LGS. They only have one way that they can play the game. Like I just read Brandon's It's stupid.
Sorry.
Sorry. No, but be the player that you want to sit across the table from. Take that responsibility, take that ownership as best you can, right? And again, I really feel for people who you've only got one place to play. Try to foster the kind of community that you want to see. Because again, I take that very seriously on myself, especially when I see new people. I want to get them involved as best that I can. And then lastly, be patient, right? Be patient with Ravensburger. Be patient with your community. The more cards we get, the more sets, the more time Ravensburger has to develop OP. I think it's going to be really, really good for the game. And I would hate to see people walk away from the game because they're not getting what they want to get from the community or from the game. And so control what you can. If you can't, just go on Twitter and find people who you want to be a part of the community with. So that's all I got.
That's a really good point. Just one thing you said, about being everybody will only have one first experience in an LGS. And, that first league night, that first Lorcana night, that first experience walking in and buying Lorcana has the potential to turn them off from the game forever. And so, and when we go to league night, oftentimes we don't know who is having that first experience. So that's well said. Rebecca, I want you to close. So I'm going to go to Eric.
Okay.
Eric, any last plugs for Miami or thoughts on the subject here?
Yeah, if you don't get along with the people at your local LGS, jump on a flight, come on down. But hey, listen, it's nice in October. We have a really good kickoff party. We have a Saturday night trade night. The artists, when I tell you the artists look forward to my convention more than any other because it's just a really fun, loose time. You get to talk with them. You don't feel the pressure where there's 50 people behind you. I mean, with 20, 22, 23 artists, you have an easy selection, get in line, wait a couple minutes and bam. They do $10 personalized autographs at my show. We'll see what they charge for regular autographs and sketches. But more importantly, you can probably, stag a game of Lorcana with them. They're all very into the game. Some were playing in the lobby on Friday night last year. And obviously they want to get to know the game more. They love their art. They're excited to be with each other and to meet all of you as well. And, we raise money for charity with Nicholas Children's Hospital. We have a lot of spicy things we're adding to the show this year. So Liam is definitely, and so is Aaron. They've given us great ideas and they'll be involved as well. So we hope to see all of you guys. And I just thank you for the time here.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, it's no secret it's on our radar, but we love art and artists. But Rebecca, I wanted to pitch it over you last because this conversation is not new. It's been had before, but you really spurred, I think, the current discussion. And I have to say, I value your perspective on the game so much.
Thank you.
In both the way you interact with the community on Twitter and Discord, but then also the content you create. Your family and their experience with the game. So I don't know. What are your closing thoughts on this subject?
It is all my fault, you guys. I'm the Martin of this topic.
Currently,
you'll never shake it now.
I think the last two things that I would say is just a reminder that being like welcoming and friendly is not always the same thing as being inclusive. And to just like what Scott was saying earlier about having like intentionality in the kind of community that you create and really think about what you can do to have a community that is not just friendly and welcoming, but also inclusive for all kinds of players. And then the last thing is that, again, with this whole like competitive versus casual, like it's not a versus, it's not competitive first and then casual or casual first and then competitive. It's both and like we've already said, we need both of those for the game to survive in the long run. They're both important aspects of the game. And so we don't want to pit them against each other. All players are not just welcome, but needed for the health and longevity of Lorcana. And I'm so glad to be a part of it. And I appreciate you hosting this discussion, Liam.
I appreciate you jumping in last minute. Everybody should know, like, this was all arranged very last minute, but everybody was eager to talk about it, and I can't tell how much I appreciate you jumping on, Rebecca.
Yeah.
And also, now that you pointed out that you're 100% right, like, competitive versus casual is probably a bad way to put it. I have to go change the thumbnail for this part of the problem. Anyway, make sure you follow all these great creators. Make sure you check out Miami TCG. Keep it on your radar. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you all next week. Make sure you go check out This Week in Ink in a few minutes. Thanks.